The YAS875EX is the top-of-the-line custom saxophone from Yamaha, but does that necessarily mean it's the best? Let's check it out. Howdy everybody, my name's Andrew King. We are here at Alamo Music in downtown beautiful San Antonio. Don't forget to visit us at alamomusic.com where we have this and so many more instruments for you to peruse. Today we are looking at a wonderful specimen of an instrument, the YAS875EX, the custom saxophone from Yamaha. Now, this saxophone is very special. It's the top-of-the-line horn, it's the one that's the highest number, it's got the best specs, it's got all the stuff that your teachers are wanting to get, it's the one that all the professionals want to see. It's basically the best horn, right? Well, maybe. There are some things about it that I really enjoy. The intonation, the playability, the ergonomics on it are pretty good too. But there is also a big kind of elephant in the room, is that this is not just the only custom horn from Yamaha. You also have the 82Z in the room as well. And for my money, I think that one actually works out a little better in the long run. But we're going to talk about that today going down the instrument. Now, as far as the 875 goes, I have a good little history with it. I used one in college during my freshman year at UTSA. This instrument was the one that was rented out to me during that first time. Basically, I came in with this kind of like smaller unison saxophone. It worked great for auditioning and getting in and all that kind of thing, but unfortunately, it just wasn't up to snuff to what I needed it to do. I had some troubles with intonation, especially on the high end, so I was able to rent one out from my school, and I got the 875EX, and it was fantastic. I was able to play all the way up. Altissimo became less than an issue, of course, because I had a larger bore from the really nice custom neck. And the playability up and down, as far as low notes, nothing was really stuffy or anything, so it really did everything it was wanted to do. And honestly, that's kind of what you want from this kind of saxophone. A custom saxophone like this from Yamaha, of all things, is going to be something you want that's going to be so dependable that when you buy it, you're buying it for the purpose that there's no issues going on in the long run. But that also means that you're also getting a very specialized instrument as well. And so if there's something you're doing more than others as far as being a saxophone player, that might be something you want to look into. If you're trying to take your time with the saxophone as far as a professional playing sense goes, there are certain areas that you want to be extremely grounded in. And I mean as far as what kind of tone color you want, what kind of intonation you're trying to go for, flexibility, airflow, resistance from the instrument itself. You're trying to get all those things directly in line so that you can basically be the best at what you are doing with the saxophone, or at least play to the ability that you want so that you can get those gigs that you want as well. Now, if you're a jazz player, that means maybe you want a super powerful tone. Maybe you don't want as much darkness in your tone and you want to be able to play over an ensemble or be able to, play over a small combo, not necessarily being a blending instrument. In my opinion, the 875 doesn't really, as far as these high-priced saxophones go, there are other answers to that question that actually prevail in that market. Now, with the 875, what I think it does really well is have a very strong dark tone. The darkness of the instrument and the perfect intonation across the board really lends itself to playing well with an ensemble as far as classical music goes. Now, these instruments, as far as playing with certain genres and whatnot, a lot of the sound is going to be from the person, of course, and the mouthpiece for that fact. When it comes to playing and getting these kind of things going, the person is going to be like 85% of the sound either way. It's depending on airflow, how much you put into the instrument, what you're willing to sacrifice to get better at something else at. So if you were to take this instrument and you were like a college player getting into your undergrad and you're going into classical and jazz, this is a great instrument for that for sure. But when you're going into more specialized areas of playing, this might not be the one for that more brighter side, but great for anything having to play with an ensemble. I was able to play this with a saxophone quartet, a saxophone ensemble, a blending instrument for sure. Paired extremely well with my scrolled C-Star, and it played very well with a AL3 as well. And I was able to basically once I was able to learn how my airflow is actually supposed to be when you play the saxophone, it really helped in the long run. Now, as far as the ergonomics go, it's fantastic. It just feels good. The pearls on here are fantastic. Not much slippage or anything like that. I don't have to worry about it. The shaping of it really feels good in my fingers. If you're doing proper finger placement on the saxophone, across the board it just feels good, especially on the low end. I think this is one of my favorite placements as far as a low C goes. It's not too low, it's not too high, and the resistance from it is fantastic as well. I also really do enjoy the E flat area as well. I do think I want it to go a little lower right out of the box, but any kind of adjustment can be made to these kind of instruments. And honestly, when it comes to those kind of adjustments too, there's not really that many that need to be done. If I were to say anything that was kind of more of a critique on my end, is that I don't enjoy how low the low B key goes when you press it down. Everything else works great as far as that goes, but with the low B key, I'm just having a little bit of it's a little too low for how I play the saxophone, which, might be wrong, but that's just one thing. Now, as far as the intonation goes, up and down is just, it's perfect. The term I would use is kind of locked in as far as up and down. Because of the V1 neck, I'm able to push in a lot of air, and the instrument's just so resonant. I think that has a lot to do with the one-piece bell, the large taper from the body, the large taper from the bore size as well from the V1 neck that's coming with the saxophone. All of that together really comes out as a just fantastic intonation. And it basically, no matter how far I push that air, with proper embouchure, proper throat control, and proper airflow, there's just nothing this instrument really gets in the way of me doing. And nothing's really stuffy either. I mean, I'm able to play on the low end with a subtone or a hard tone, and either way, those notes come out just how I want them, perfectly nice and tuned, and I can bend and move and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't really get in the way. And honestly, that's kind of the best way to describe this instrument. The 875EX really is a supportive instrument, but it just doesn't get in the way of anything. And you want that from an instrument at that price point. It's going for $5,000, which is a lot of money for a saxophone. And I honestly believe that this kind of saxophone is one that's going to go to someone that wants to take this to that next level, or is already at that level and just wants to get something that they never have to really think about again. No matter which side of the coin you're going to be playing from, I do think this is a good instrument, but if you are playing from the jazz angle, I do recommend looking into the 82Z from Yamaha as well. That instrument does play extremely well. It gives that extra push that you want to your tone, and it also has some really nice playability options as well. But because this is the 875EX, this is a fantastic classical instrument. It has everything you're going to be wanting from it. The free-blowing nature is fantastic throughout. Because of the V1 neck, I do recommend that if you are someone that's used to more French-style playing as far as saxophones go, do look into the G1 or the C1 neck. The G1's a little older. There's also the C1 and the E1. The E1's kind of in between, but the C1 is kind of, I think, really good for if you're really into those more resistant saxophones where you have something to play against and you want that. But the A75EX just kind of blows. It's fantastic in that one, and I had a really good time playing it. So let's go ahead and take a listen to it. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you in a little bit. thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had a fantastic time playing the saxophone. I personally use in my professional playing a YAS875EX that I modified to use a V1 neck on, and that works great too. I do recommend this to anybody that wants to take it to that point, like that professional level point. There's not a lot of room in that whole classical sphere, but the playing of this, if you're going to college and everything and you're able to get this instrument, I sincerely think that this is the one that can last you for the rest of your life. It's one of those kind of instruments. Yamaha's just the quality control on these, every single one. We got multiple of these in the shop, and every single one of these just came out of the box almost perfect. And I do really recommend checking them out. I was able to use one in college for a very good amount of time, and that one really improved my playing because I was able to, I was hitting a wall that was the saxophone that I was using before, and that had to do with I wasn't able to get the kind of airflow that I want out of the instrument. And usually when it comes to sound and all that kind of stuff, especially if you're coming from like a student model or an intermediate model, what you run into is you're going to be told, over and over again, hey, it's all of the player. And I agree to that to a very certain extent. The player is going to be, and I said this before, but 85% of the sound and all that kind of stuff is all from the person playing themselves. That's just what it is. But when it comes to the tools that you're going to be using, you want something that's going to be extremely forgiving, and especially at that point in your life when you're trying to learn and get better and get into it. And so I think if you're going into it as a college player, this is like that perfect saxophone to get, because you're going to have this one in college, you're going to improve on it, you're going to get better, you're going to familiarize yourself with this saxophone. And so that would mean that going out of college, once you've learned so much and get into more professional playing or going into teaching or anything like that, this is going to be still your tool that you can improve yourself on. So all around, it's a fantastic instrument. The $5,000 price point is extremely high, in my opinion, but that's a Yamaha thing, and that's something that you're going to have to kind of work around. But if you're able to swing it, if you're able to do that, I totally recommend it. It's a fantastic horn, and you will not regret it. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.